There we go. Has anyone had a chance to listen to the first intro episode on the website?
No, I'm sorry.
I'll take silence as a no. Okay, so I think that the foundation of it is very important. So I'm gonna do a review and kind of go over those things because they're just too important to skip. So this is Anger and Stress, a self-guided therapy session for Black women, hosted by me, Candelata, founder of Hair Therapy. This is the book that is our guide. This book, Going Off, was written by Faye Childs and Noreen Palmer. Noreen Palmer is a psychotherapist and a health professional, and Faye Childs is a marketing consultant, and she's in the publishing industry. And they wrote this book together, two Black women. The history of this book is it was given to me by my first therapist, Dr. Salazar, moons ago. I was supposed to guide myself through postpartum, and no such thing happened. I just kept going to see her until I eventually graduated that. I didn't really have the mind capacity to sit and read or even look at things from this perspective. So I'm kind of circling back to see what I missed out on. I'm moving some things around. Okay, this is a summary of the book. And you can also order this book on Amazon, but don't worry, I have excerpts and I'm basically going to read it to you. So no pressure to get the book. A Black Woman's Guide for Dealing with Anger and Stress. Palmer and Childs are the first authors to debunk the myth of the angry Black woman. The work is complete with original interviews and quotes prepared especially for this book from prolific authors, including Ayana Vincent. Going Off examines common scenarios that can lead to anger in friendships, romantic relationships, families, and the workplace. Fueling the adrenaline rush of going off. Going off has a payoff that makes us feel justified to act aggressively. However, in the aftermath of explosive anger, you face hurtful consequences which impact relationships. Going off suggests ways to diffuse your anger triggers by changing your perspective so you can avoid the temptation of going off and instead think about the situation rationally. Opening remarks. Guess who went to therapy today? I did. So I was telling my therapist about this course and the session and what inspired it. And she said a few things to me that I wanted to share. I told her that one of my friends was like, oh, girl, you started a university? What? And she was just like, would you get qualified to be teaching about anger? And I know that she was joking, but that could definitely be a thought. Like, who are you to speak on this topic? And so my perspective was like, I'm the top valedictorian of the Anger Institute. Like, I just feel like I've been pretty angry. And so coming out on the other side of it, that maybe sharing some of my experiences can help someone save themselves instead of going as far as I did. And so when I spoke to her, she said, qualification, she said, anyone can talk about anything. And she said, she wanted me to inspire you all to use yourself and use your experiences to share with others, to never feel that you need to be, to have any type of special accolades to help another person if you have an experience worth sharing. Her other bullet was, you are not wild, you are not out of control. We do not talk to our boss the way we talk to our kids or in the safety of our own home. So she was like, basically saying the fact that we're able to switch really quick, like, put that fucking shit down. Hello, this is Miss Hopkinson. Like, the fact that your brain is able to do that lets you know that you have control of how you behave. We tend to abuse ones we love because we think they can't go anywhere or will not do anything. She said that she sees that commonly as a therapist, that, you feel like your blood is just going to be there. So you treat them all kind of ways, knowing you wake up and they're going to be there. And then her last tidbit was, you have control, so use it. Those are some direct quotes from Mrs. Crosby, from her mouth to my ear to you. Today in 2-1, I'm going to go over anger styles and the struggle against stereotypes. In the future and coming up, we're going to go over why men hate to see sisters angry, addressing resentment openly, the Black woman's anger test. 2:15, we're going to go over invincible Black woman syndrome, how self-neglect leads to anger, and characteristics of IBW. And we're going to finish off with anger triggers, and how to respond to how your triggers relates to your anger styles. Hopefully you're still engaged, and if you want to go further, we can keep going. And if not, you'll be in a good space where you know more than you knew before, or you can pick the book up on your own and finish this journey, and hopefully share with me what the big takeaways were for yourself and if it was life-changing for you. I want to start with some introductions. I would like to go around the virtual room, starting with Queen.
I'm here. I don't know how to fully introduce, but my name's Queen.
So the prompts are, my name is, I came to this session because the best thing about group sessions are, my least favorite thing about group sessions is.
Wonderful. Reading is fundamental. Okay, there we go. My name is Queenette DK. I came to this session because I want to pick up something new, or even something that I'm doing correctly in my anger and stress, handling that. The best thing about group sessions are you can always get someone else's perspective. You don't always have to live in what I know is the only truth. The least favorite thing about group sessions is sometimes we can get embarrassed about ourselves, listening to other people. And so for me, I sometimes don't give myself enough credit in my own journey. So that could be a least favorite for me, but that's it.
Thanks for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to move into anger styles. This is an excerpt from the book that I'm going to be reading. What makes women go off? Adrenaline gives us the fuel to go off. However, after such explosion, women may face hurtful consequences. We need to examine our style of communication when we are angry, and recognize when we are exhibiting unhealthy anger styles. Our anger can develop into stress-related symptoms, from insomnia to cardiovascular disorders. Anger style, the authoritarian. When angry, the authoritarian sister usually has difficulty seeing others' points of view or feelings. This person can be blunt and not realize that she is offending others by her words. Anger response. What this sister must think about before responding is, am I thinking from a one-way perspective? Am I jumping to conclusions? Do I want to destroy this relationship by saying hurtful things? Do I need to cool down before I respond? The high-profile anger style. The high-profile sister is concerned with her image and may put on a strong front when angry. Trying to make the best of a bad situation, she will attempt to remain optimistic and sociable, but her body language often reveals that she's upset. The high-profile person especially becomes angry when she is not recognized or feels rejected. She needs to be aware of losing touch with her emotions. Their anger response. The high-profile sister needs to think about the following before she responds to triggers. Do I feel rejected? Am I upset because I'm not the center of attention? Am I feeling like someone has the one up on me? Am I upset over someone else's success? Pragmatic style. The pragmatic sister is a stable team player who is at risk of internalizing anger for fear of what others may think about her. Although this sister enjoys serenity, she's also at risk of blindly going off after holding in angry feelings for long periods of time. When this happens, she often has regrets about the incident because she views herself as the glue that holds relationships together. Anger response. When anger is triggered, the pragmatic sister needs to check her internal dialogue. Am I giving more weight to others' opinions than I should? Am I allowing my negative emotions to draw conclusions regarding this situation? Am I avoiding confrontation? Intellectual style. The intellectual sister likes to be in control and feels angry when she is criticized. She wants everyone to adhere to a set of rules and has a difficult time understanding why they are broken. The intellectual person is sensitive to anyone criticizing her, but at the same time, she is highly critical of herself and others. This person must become aware of negative self-talk and self-doubt that can turn into impulsive thoughts. She also needs to become aware of alienating the people she criticizes. Response style. When anger is triggered, the intellectual sister needs to consider the following. Am I reacting to criticism? Am I blaming others or myself? Am I exaggerating others' shortcomings? Break time. Now that I've read the different anger styles, does anyone identify with any one of these more than the other? I'm going to share mine. Like, I giggled when I heard authoritarian because I've heard that, oh, you're blunt so many times over the years. But the intellectual one, I was like, self-doubt, negative talk, criticizing others, being highly critical. I just remember my mind going through some of these experiences. Black woman. Why is Black woman's anger so different from any other woman's? So the short answer is slavery. But to expound, I want to read an excerpt from the book. Why is Black women's anger so different from other women? No women in America have a history of slavery except African-American women, and the legacy of slavery continues to affect us in present times. It affects us in terms of our economic status, our social status. We learned early in the bullwhip days of slavery to contain our anger or face severe punishment, even death. On some plantations, conditions were so cruel that the death of a family member wasn't mourned because they knew that heaven had to be a better place. During the Women in Anger survey, we asked 400 sisters, do you go off? 73% of the survey participants said they definitely did and defined what it meant, not only in writing, but also in their conversations. Going off is peculiar to Black women when they become angry. From our survey, we identified 2 different levels of going off. 2 different levels of going off, the Sister Sass level and the Sapphire level. The Sister Sass level is the type of anger response that includes slanted eyes, angled body posture, tilted heads, and sashaying on about your business when finished speaking your mind. Going off Sister Sass style means brutally telling someone what you think, verbalizing what's on your mind. The Sapphire level of going off is an escalated angry response that takes an argument to the extreme, which includes losing their perspective on the situation, becoming verbally or physically abusive, throwing things, and venturing into tactics that are below the belt. In workshops we conducted on women in anger, we asked the question, what is going off? The first response was usually laughter because sisters think of one of their going off episodes as they reflect on the drama. They realize that sometimes they let themselves go too far. The sisters who didn't laugh generally exhibited an anger style that was harmful because they masked their emotions instead of expressing them. Often sisters will let their anger build up until they can't contain it anymore, and then they release the anger in an aggressive way. Okay, we're gonna take a break. So when you think of anger, right? How would you describe the way that it actually feels? Okay, for me, just want to go ahead and share, I feel the burn. So I laughed when the first time that I read about the person that says they feel it burning in their chest. And so when I was younger, I just feel mad because I just want to slap you. So it was really me trying to control not slapping the other person. But now it's a double-ended thing because I feel the anger, but I know all the responsibilities that I have in life and everything that I can lose. And so there's like a constant conflict going on between what I wish I could do and what I know I have to do. So that's definitely tough for me. How do I deal with the anger? In full disclosure, I've had so many different types of level of rage. And last year, oh my gosh, it's 2023. Last year was the first time that I took medication to control not anger, but anxiety, which still comes from stress and anger. My experience with that was I still had the thoughts, but it takes the emotion away from you, so you don't really feel like yourself. The most frustrating part about taking medication to calm yourself down is when you get compliments about it. It's like, oh my gosh, you've been so chill lately. It's like, wow, you people really don't like who I really am. So, and I did that for 6 months. And the plan with that was when you're going through things in life, because sometimes things are environmental, like you're not angry for no reason, you're angry because something happened. A professional told me that it's okay to make a 6-month plan and make some things that you want to do within that 6 months. And hopefully after you accomplish some of those things and you're coming out the other side, you don't feel as anxious. So you can use your medication as a bridge, and it has a start point and an end point. So that worked for me, but it definitely was not comfortable. I didn't enjoy it. I loathed 8 o'clock every day. As soon as you take it, your tummy hurts and then you fall asleep. And then your tummy hurts and then you fall asleep. And I did that on a repeating loop for 6 months, but I did do all of the goals and I did feel much better, but not because the medication made me feel better, but because I was able to change my life within that time. Hope that wasn't an overshare, but it is definitely a part of what inspired me to connect with other women now that I'm on the other side of it. And I think the spoiler alert of this book is that, I mean, I didn't read it to the end, but my hunch is that they're going to try to teach us to not beat up on our family and be more assertive at work. You know, to put a little sprinkle from here and push it on the other side and take a little sprinkle from there and put it on the other side
Right.
to create a balance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I just feel like it's so easy to say, but so hard to do. Like I have been trying to obtain balance for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like I don't even know how many years I've been trying to like get this scale going. And just when I think it's like perfect, some shit comes and like, bang, your balance. I'm like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, and I like got to pick up my things and try to recalibrate the scale. But spending just a few moments in the balance, even though it wasn't very long, it felt good enough for me to know I want to go back and I want to stay longer each time. So I've been able to maintain for short periods of time. And my goal one day before I hit the casket is to be able to just hold on to that feeling a little bit longer, you know? So we're going into struggling against stereotypes. Proving your femininity has long been an issue for Black women. Our initial entry into American society forced us to into backbreaking daily labor, while we simultaneously struggled to love and raise our children. Shajana Truth had to defend her womanhood when she was accused of being a man because she had been forced to do a man's work. After slavery, African-American women have felt unresolved anger. Sisters were searching for their spouses and children who had been sold and separated from them. It was extremely challenging to locate a child that was separated or sold at birth. 40 acres and a mule was a broken promise when we were free. We only had what John Hope Franklin describes as one kind of freedom. We're still economically enslaved. Split, bended, and broken families have become a way of life for us in our beginnings as free people. Persistent perceptions of Black women, from being loud and overly aggressive to sassy and overtly sexual, relate to the media's depiction of Black women on television and in the movies. The stereotypical Aunt Jemima type is the caring, nurturing figures whose purpose is to serve all others' needs. African-American women traditionally have been portrayed negatively in mass media with messages that tell us we're not beautiful. Despite these stereotypes that continue to shape the misconception of who we are today, our presence in society remains multifaceted and varied. We are short and tall, slender and wide, hipped, Black and brown and yellow. Our hair is kinky, curly, straight, braided, and updoed. Black women are CEOs, entrepreneurs, office workers, chefs, educators, journalists, healthcare professionals, and so much more. Despite what others believe, we know that we are not and have never been one way. In each chapter of this book, you will see all box labeled sister circle notes. These inspirational affirmations are motivational notes to encourage you to take positive actions when dealing in stressful situations, and they give a positive scripture reference for further understanding and personal growth. Forming our responses to anger in the childhood years. Our anger styles are often formed when we are young. Our anger expressions can be understood from how our parents expected us to behave. For example, Carla remembers acting out her anger at a very early age. Mama would get angry with me and holler, "Carla Ann, you pick up those cotton picking toys right now." She always called me by my first and middle name when she was upset. In turn, Carla, the eldest child, patterned her own anger style after her mother. She screamed loudly at her younger brother, "Junior, you give me that cotton picking ball right now." When Karma emulated her mother's behavior, her mother would chastise her and ask her, "What did I hear you say?" Then she would threaten to whip her if she heard her say cotton picking again. Carla would become even angrier with her brother for smirking when she got in trouble. When Carla's mother turned her back, she would take the ball away from Junior after her mother had told her to give it back to him. Carla sought her own method of justice because she felt that her brother always had his way with their mama. Carla also had vivid memories of her mother and father arguing bitterly. After Carla's dad came home, she would run to him and say, "Daddy, Mama hit me today." Her father would always side with his little girl and reprimand her mother. "I thought I told you not to put your hands on my kids." Her mother's standard reaction was, last I knew they were my kids too, spare the rod, spoil the child. Her family would fight in anger triangles. First Carla, her brother, her mother, then Carla, her mother, and her father. As an adult, if Carla has a disagreement with someone, she can't let a subject drop, and she always involves a third party in her battles. She needs someone to join in on the issue, and she feels compelled to continue the argument. I just read that little piece. Does any piece of this excerpt, even though I don't know who's using the terms cotton picking in 2023, does anybody feel like they use their parents' anger styles? Or do you think that you've developed your own? So for me, none of my parents are like me. I just feel like I just really got dropped here by like a stork sometimes. And my dad is like cool, like Snoop, you know, like not much ruffles his feathers. He's just so cool. He doesn't use too many words. My mom, it was a very observant and quiet person. The only thing that bothered her was moving her things. You really want to get a rise out of her, move something. And she's like, but outside of that, she's so calm. So I don't really know where I developed this style of using the F word all the time. I think I just picked it up in the streets of Brooklyn somewhere and just won't put it back. So that's me. Everything's F this, F that, F, 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 right? And so my son has now recently developed that he too wants to curse. And I haven't actually heard him curse, but he'll say it and like bleep it. He tells me stuff and he's like, yeah, that's bleeping crazy. And I'm like, did you just say that to me? He was like, I said bleeping. I said, but why did you say bleeping? And he said, Mom, I can't wait to grow up and curse. And I said, what? And he was like, yeah, I just want to express myself fully. And I'm just like, what have I started? And so every day I try and fail. Every day I'm like, this is the day where I'm going to speak like one of those moms on TV that doesn't use profanity. And by 10 o'clock, I'm like, well, that effing bag. And I'm like, oh, I failed again. So I don't think I took it from anyone, but I do think my kid is really trying to be me. And I'm just like, ugh. Of all my traits, I don't know why my anger response is what he's trying to follow. Did anyone else want to share? Okay. Dealing with anger explosively creates a cycle. So we're getting close to the end of today's session. And this is the last thing that I'm going to share. And when we come back, I'm looking forward to, I'll tell you what we're going to cover when we come back after this last paragraph for the evening. Dealing with anger explosively creates a dangerous cycle. Susan was trapped in harmful patterns with her boyfriend, Skip. Skip would stay out late and return home smelling like alcohol or not make it in until the wee hours of the morning. When Susan would ask him where he had been, he would tell her out and stop trying to control him. Susan would go off Sapphire style. Skip would physically abuse her. In response to her angry outburst and his guilt for hitting her, Skip would cry and apologize. These ugly scenes were the only times Susan and Skip had full attention and cooperation. Finally, Susan began therapy because she needed someone to talk to about the situation, and she was too embarrassed to discuss it with her friends. At first, Susan really believed that blindly going off was the answer to her problems with Skip. But with the help of therapy, she began to see things differently. She realized that she was deeply angry, but she felt guilt and anxiety for lashing out so furiously at someone she thought she loved. As soon as she recognized that going off allowed her to justify maintaining a relationship that she was afraid to let go of, Susan told Skip that she could not date him until he sought counseling for his problem. Going off contributed to Susan's emotional turmoil and placed her at risk for a cyclic pattern of abuse with her boyfriend. From Susan's story, we can see how going off can be the tip of an iceberg of anger. Going off without thinking through situation distracts us from the real issue at hand. Generally, we explode in this way. It's because we're frightened and we do not have the ability to cope. We use this process of venting to create space between ourselves and our fear, numbing ourselves in the process and often alienating others. We often feel guilty after losing control, so we repress our unresolved feelings in order to punish ourselves for this loss of control. Such behavior, of course, leads to further complications and misery. If we continue to hide our anger and avoid expressing it, we may find ourselves suffering from the invincible Black woman syndrome, a condition that sisters experience when they want to maintain the appearance of staying strong by placing themselves last despite their feelings. That is our cliffhanger for tonight. And if I didn't give it away already, we're heading into the relationship segment when we go into the next session. So the next session is going to be specifically focusing more on anger within romantic relationships. And it will also we'll also discuss discussing resentments openly, and then you'll also be able to take a quiz and see where you fall on the Black woman anger quotient scale. And if we have time, we'll head into discussing more about what the invincible Black woman syndrome is.